Yeah, so for the, whatever you call it, the education series today, I wanted to try and give one of the presentations that I gave at the Met. I had two presentations. One was Olympic weightlifting, the other one was athleticism, which is what we're going to go over today. Some of it's going to be PowerPoint, some of it's going to be kind of hands-on stuff to keep you guys engaged, but I just wanted to show you guys some things that you can do when you have athlete clients. Not just fitness athletes like High Rocks and CrossFit, but also like, you know, baseball, football, track, whatever else you have to worry about. So you can kind of pull things from this this arsenal and use it to help people. So first things first, let's go here. This is the kind of the overview of what we're going over. We don't have to go through this super in depth. We're just going to go through big chunks of it so that you guys know how to program and utilize some of this exercise selection to your advantage. And we'll go over like trivia stuff to see who does the least burpees. A bit about me, NASM trainer, veteran, and I studied some of this stuff and coached it with people at the Med and just outside. We're going to be breaking it down into two parts, speed, agility, and quickness and plyometrics. Okay, so speed is how fast you can go in one straight line. Agility is how quickly you can change direction and efficiently. Quickness is how, basically just explosiveness. Plyos is going to be the jump training that you see a lot of people do, whether it's pogos, hopping, hurdle jumps, even jumping rope, burpee broad jumps. All that stuff is plyometrics to some degree. This is what we're going to be kind of going over too. We talked about this a little bit. If you guys think about it like this, there's a XY graph of how you want to approach most exercises and what you're going to do in the gym. Either force biased or velocity biased. Okay, force biased is going to be anything that's like near maximal strength, or whether it's back squats, powerlifting, anything like that, bodybuilding. This is a lot of like Olympic weightlifting stuff that combines mostly force but some velocity. This is mostly velocity but some force, so snatches, med ball throws, stuff like that. This is entirely going to be velocity biased. Okay, so sprinting and plyos doesn't require that much force. Reason to do it: one, it's fun. You get better at general sports. So if you guys have never done any sort of cuts or juked somebody out in a while, you're liable to be injured. You're probably not going to be that good at it. It's fun to train these things so you become more generally fit. I know that you guys have heard me talk about GPP before, general physical preparedness. This is really helpful if you want to kind of train those weak spots that you've never really trained before. If you're also training an athlete in the off season, you're going to be training them for GPP. It's a lot more broad to get them to be generally strong, generally well endured, or like generally well conditioned, mobile, have good connective tissue strength. These are the big ones that I did at the Met. I didn't really care to change them because you're still going to get the odd racket player, the odd basketball player, the odd golfer. And so these are still good reasons as to why you'd want to introduce athletic training into their programs, not just you know, the conventional stuff that we do in the gym. Here are the big parts. So we're going to talk about connective tissue. That's going to be tendons, joints, and ligaments. Okay. Can anybody tell me what the difference between a tendon and a ligament is?
Tendons connect bone to muscle. Ligaments connect bone to bone.
Exactly.
That's one less burpee.
Yes, that's one less burpee for you. We're all going to start at 100. We're just going to knock down by 1 point. What did I put down? So, yeah, there's two properties of tendons, elasticity and stiffness. You've probably all seen somebody with tendon ruptures or something like a strained tendon. Can anybody name specific tendons?
Patella.
Louder?
Patella
Tendon, yes. Achilles. One more. Just throw something out.
Rotator cuff tendon?
Yeah. All four of them. Sits. All of those have tendons connected to them. They're primarily muscles, but every muscle has a tendon connected. That's what connects it to the bone. Into ligaments, LCL. We had a bit of an issue with the LCL with you. A lot of lateral athletes, that's going to be like racket athletes, basketballers. They're all going to have a risk of straining their LCL. I had issues with my ATFL down in my toe, stuff like that. Plyos and stuff like that help to stabilize a lot of that. Oh, something I missed with the tendon. You want to train it to be both elastic and stiff, so springy and also ability to take on a lot of load. Like Eric. Joints, you train them to be a lot more stable when you train a lot of like altitude and different drops. When you train landing mechanics, you can train the joints to stabilize better with a lot of force. GPP wise, learning how to use the right muscles, that's neuromuscular efficiency, not just spazzing out on the court. You're able to relax, utilize just exactly what you need to make a quick cut, jump and catch something, etc. And then just become more generally fit. So into the SAQ and Plyos version, this is where we're gonna get a little bit more hands-on. We're gonna start off with the SAQ. What is SAQ? The definition I have down here is, used to enhance one's ability to move rapidly in one direction, which is speed, change directions efficiently, and which is agility, and quickness, which is react quickly with explosive power. Okay, we're gonna break that down. So speed, like I said, just one direction, A to B, as fast as possible. The two components to that is how fast you can reach top speed and what your top speed is. So what your 0 to 60 speed is and what exactly your 60 is. Okay. Agility is going to be, like I said, the ability to change direction efficiently and quickly, change direction speed, and balance and coordination. So you're not just falling over when you make a quick cut, or when you want to change directions, you're not stutter stepping or anything like that. And then quickness is mostly just going to be reaction time and explosiveness. So how quickly you react to stimulus in a given time. The definition I have is the ability to react and change body position with the maximum rate of force production. Okay, so we're going to get into how exactly to do that. There's a couple of these that we do. The major one that's going to increase speed is just going to be sprinting. So this is with maximal intent. This is going to be like anywhere between like 7 to usually like 15 seconds, which your range they usually do for max speed.
About 10
10 or so?
Yeah,
10 or so seconds. So it's not going to be like a very long time. You're really trying your best to reach that top speed, then you're backing off. Okay? You give yourself enough rest and you try again. There's different parts. You want to get up and demonstrate a couple of them?
Which one?
I'll show you. I'll call them out for you. So you've done a lot of these yourself. We were talking about this prior. Get over there on the turf. Andy, take this. So, are you familiar with falling starts?
I think so.
Sweet shit.
Yeah.
So,
No.
Yep. The reason we do that is because off the blocks, when you're doing like 100 meter or 200 meter, you want to stay low so that you use that force and transfer it vertically, right? You want to be able to project yourself forward before you make yourself tall. Next one's going to be hill sprints. That helps you to keep your knees high, right? You don't have to demonstrate that. Footwork in the sprint, so we would just have you do something like, in and out, icky shuffle, something like that, into a maximum sprint, right? And then other one's going to be resisted, so we would use a band. I could just put a band around your waist, and you just go for that maximum sprint. You've done that before. And the parachute, we've done the parachute before. Those are all useful versions to help you train your acceleration, how quickly you reach your top speed. General preparedness-wise, if you don't have access to like a lot of space to sprint, you can do sled pushes, and you can also do bounce. You want to demonstrate bounce? Yep. Good. Yeah, so that's the first part for acceleration. Let's move on to the part. Max velocity, once again. We're making good with all the hordes. Sprinting is going to be your number one go-to at all times. If you're not doing it, once or twice a week and you want to get better at your athleticism, you need to prioritize that. The variations come secondary to the primary movement, and Carlos has harped on that a lot when we talk about like starting off with kind of niche variations, right, Carlos? Yeah. Flying sprints, we can't really do this here, but what that is you start off behind where you, sort of behind the starting blocks, and you take your time getting to your max point so that by the time you hit that starting line, you're already at your max speed, and then you just try and sustain that for the entirety of the distance. High knee drills, I mean, we've all done that before. We've done that in my clinic. Not the clinic, but the GPP class we had. Hey, skips, you want to demonstrate? There we go. Ankling, have you done this in a while?
I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard.
This is more of a dance.
Like,
Yeah. There we go. Can you do a stiff ankle? Can you do a stiff leg ankle?
what's it look like?
I've done it. Yeah.
It's like that. Yeah. I'll do that.
Like that. There we go. And then straight leg bounce. These are kind of tough. Want to try?
Yeah.
There we go. Yep. And that's, I mean, I talked about stiffness versus elasticity. That's like maximal stiffness all the way down the leg. Okay. If somebody has like too bent of legs when they sprint or anything like that, this helps them to stay really, really tall and move through that. Move on. Change of direction speed. We do reaction drills, like, you know, if we have something, we just do like a ball catch or a chase drill or a reaction drill. I've had people start off just laying down on their chest, and I just throw a ball ahead. They both get up and they try and beat each other to that ball. Stuff like that helps you to teach them how to like quickly change direction and stuff like that. Better drills, you've probably all seen a T drill done before, right? Go up, go right, go left, back, stuff like that. Yes? No?
That's it.
No? Okay. Want to demonstrate?
I don't know what it look like.
Okay. So, we usually have cones out in a T shape, so you just one here, here, left and right. We do it at varying speeds, but we run, we quickly change direction, touch, we come back down, touch the far side, and then come back. And then sometimes, if you wanted to, you also have a back pedal. So if they're like safeties or anything like that, where back pedaling is necessary, we would do that. Cone weave, you just weave in and out of cones. Pretty self-explanatory. Zigzag hops. Are you familiar with zigzag hops? Okay, so you're basically just going to be bouncing like this. Okay, that's going to train moving forward while also getting a little bit of lateral stimulus. This is a really good. I talk about like comprehensive exercises. If you were to choose like only one or two like plyometrics to do, this would be a really good one to get some sort of lateral stimulus in. What I mean by lateral is side to side. A lot of sports, basketball, even football, soccer, you're getting a degree of lateral stimulus, but you're not always moving directly just to the left or right. You're trying to move forward while also weaving in and out, and that helps that. Okay? Lateral bounds, you're literally just jumping left or right. Balance coordination, drop step. Okay? This is literally just what's on the screen. It's here. Okay? That's going to be a pretty fundamental movement. Crossover step. You do that on the agility ladder. Yeah, right there. Yep. Yeah, that's it. That's fine. Icky shuffle. You got your version of that? Yep. Quick feet.
Quick, 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 quick.
In and out, lateral high knees, all this stuff can be done on the agility ladder. For that general fitness stuff, when you're not trying to work on footwork, if somebody's in the off season or if they're not even playing a sport, I usually wouldn't have them do an agility ladder for their general fitness. That's only if footwork is necessary, like for Nicholas who plays soccer, footwork is like crucial, especially at this stage. We could have them do box jumps, but usually I wouldn't even recommend that because there's no landing aspect of that. I think that's a big like misunderstanding that a lot of people do when they try to train plyometrics, is that box jumps really only focuses on one half of the movement. There's no real landing mechanic, there's no landing stimulus, so you're getting half of the return, okay? Then there's the clean and jerk and the snatch. This helps with agility, especially in the power variations, because or the power or the full variations, because you're quickly changing direction, you're applying force upward, and then you are, however high you can get it, you're quickly reacting underneath. Okay, quickness, lots of stuff. Drop jumps, we'll talk about drop versus depth jumps in a second. Ball toss, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have somebody over here, you just chuck a tennis ball, tell them to come left, you chuck it to the right, something like that. Helps with the reaction. Partner chases, same thing. If I have somebody a distance away and I tell them, go right, somebody has to chase them in that direction. Explosiveness, short sprints, rotational med ball, that's basic explosiveness. And resistant to lateral steps, which is what's on the picture. Okay, so you just have a hip on a band on their hips, and they have to resist you laterally. Power variations, once again, the reason I talk about quickness for this versus agility is because when you do the power variation or even the muscle variation, you're not just focusing on the getting around the bar, you're moving the bar straight up with maximal intent. Okay, that's more explosiveness than it is agility for the hips. Kettlebell swing, not as popular, but it's still doable. Tire beats are very unpopular. I don't really do them for anybody, but it's still a thing that you could do if you wanted to train explosiveness in a novel way. Plyos, what are they? There was an Olympic journalist, I think he was, Fred Wills. He was watching the Soviet coach Yuri Verkhoshansky train his athletes. They were doing a lot of landing mechanic stuff from like high places. They were doing depth jumps and drop jumps, which you're familiar with. We'll get into that in a sec. And he saw that this had like a great effect on their ability to prevent injury and increase their athletic ability, explosiveness, lower leg strength, and all that stuff. What am I missing? Oh, the etymology of it, kleos is Greek for more, metric is just the measurement of something, so it's the measurement of explosiveness basically is what he was trying to get at. What am I missing here? Yeah, exercises that involve rapid and explosive movements to increase muscle power, speed, and strength. Plyos, two types, shock in general, okay. Shock method is what he was basically, what Fred Wilk was initially seeing and what he first got like the idea from. We'll demonstrate that on the box, and I'll do this myself. You can take a rest. I'll show you the difference between these four, okay? We'll go from there. Yeah, so I'm going to take the box over here. So this is kind of backwards from what you guys are usually used to when it comes to like box jumps and stuff or burpee broad jumps. This is training plyometrics with maximal intent, just like you would a heavy deadlift, a heavy clean, a heavy bench or something like that. You'd start here. The difference between a drop jump and a depth jump, you want to think drop, don't stop. I'm going to get over here. So I'm hopping off and I'm very quickly changing my direction with maximal intent, so I'm here. That helps just for that tendon stiffness. You can absolutely increase it. You can add dumbbells and stuff like that. Depth jump, you're going to focus more on the height than you do just the quickness. Okay, this usually goes a little bit higher so that you really focus on reacting as harshly as possible. So instead of just springing right off, I'm going to take a second to drop, or to land, gather myself and redirect the force. Here, okay. Depth drop, that's usually going to be with bands or dumbbells, okay? You just take that, you just drop down. You can also just do it on yourself, but it's focusing on just like maximal weighted landing. Then an altitude jump, I've seen this a lot from people that do like base jumping, skiing, snowboarding, parkour. Somebody that needs like maximal like joint strength training. They do a lot of like higher stuff to train themselves. There's this guy, Chris Scott. He's a parkour athlete, and he trains other parkour athletes. He starts like here. He's very high up, and he's landing, and he's just doing that. That's all he's doing. These are all helpful depending on, like if you have any skiers, if you have any snowboarders, skateboarders, whatever else you can think of, these would be very helpful. If you have somebody that gets tackled a lot, doing like upper body plyos to train their joints to stabilize so they don't dislocate anything, or if they, all this stuff would be useful.
The drop jump is like you're keeping like stiff.
It's not just about stiffness. It's about ground contact.
Okay.
What?
Can you try it?
Quickness. So,
You're not seeking down and using it as a back up.
right, you're just focusing on,
Placing more stiff.
yes. And it goes back to the stiffness versus elasticity. Elasticity, like point, but you're trying to keep yourself more springy. If I wanted somebody to do like hurdle jumps or hurdle hops, sometimes I would have them. What's going on?
They're trying to rotate it.
Oh, okay. It's not working.
I can't rotate it. I mean, it's working.
It's just a drop jump or a depth jump. Getting hurdles in would be really helpful because you're able to do multiple reps, but this would be like helpful for the very low reps and really focusing on that that high intent, the maximal intent. Okay, so I'll show you the depth versus the drop.
Okay. Or it seems like less like hip drop time, or something. Like you're not dropping down on the depth jump. You're just minimal.
Yes. Yes.
Minimal bending of the joints.
No, it's the drop jump. The mnemonic that people use is drop, don't stop. So that's where you minimize your ground contact time as much as possible, as maximally as possible. Does anybody else want to demonstrate this so that we can? You want to try, Eric?
I'm trying to do this too.
Victor, let's go.
I'm not sure if I got it right this whole time.
Do it. Do it.
So, drop jump is minimal drop time.
Yes.
Minimal
So
contact
you
time.
get your hands behind you, and once you want to think like, I don't know, like the floor is lava or something, you're very quickly redirecting that force. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Versus
while-
depth jump.
which is like you're dropping down more.
Just land and brace, I guess.
Yep, there you go. Exactly. That's it.
Okay.
And you can customize this however you want. You can add dumbbells, bands, whatever else.
When do you say, like, okay, that's enough? How many times do you do that?
I'll get into that, like sets and reps wise, like volume. We'll get into that later. You want to treat this just like you would like bodybuilding reps or like strength reps, depending on what you're going for.
Like the progression, you mean?
Well, I mean, just like volume wise,
Oh,
like sets and
reps and
reps wise,
sets.
and like
Gotcha,
rest
gotcha.
time wise. You want to treat this just like you would that stuff. If you have somebody in season, you do usually like just lower volume. If you have somebody that doesn't even have a season, that's not an athlete, you can program it another way. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, but it's still a good thing to do. Back into here. That's the shock method, just focusing on the drop. General method is what you guys are probably already used to, okay? Pogos, hops, bounds, leaps, stuff like that. We've demonstrated kind of already like bounds and stuff like that. But extensive is what everybody's already seen before, which is gonna be like higher rep. Okay, so intensive is gonna be, think of that as like your heavy deadlift or your heavy bench sets and reps. Extensive is gonna be your, like 15 plus rep stuff. Okay, so jumping rope, how CrossFit does their high rep box jump stuff, all of those things kind of go over the extensive because it's high rep. How to do it. There's this guy that everybody likes to follow. He's kind of what a lot of people deem to be like the new authority on plyometrics. His name's Matt McInnes Watson. He was a high jumper out of, I think, the UK. Very popular. He came up with a grid of tiers for the general method of plyometrics. It has to do with range of motion, ground reaction force, and ground contact time. So if you want to think of like the agility ladder stuff, that's footwork, that's light tier. That's going to be short ground contact time. So you want to stay quick on the feet, and low ground reaction force. So you're not maximally pushing off. You're just doing quick feet, stuff like that, across an agility ladder or something like that. Medium tier, not as harsh, not as high ground contact force or ground reaction force. Ping tier is going to be stuff like pogos. You want to demonstrate pogos, Keith? Keep this high intent, springy, stuff like that. Yep, exactly. That's going to be ping tier. Yeah, there you go. Good. And then deep tier is going to be, it's going to have to do with range of motion. Okay, so like frog jumps, frog hops, stuff like that, where you're in a deep squat and you're just kind of hopping along. If you want to do something like maybe a squat jump or something like that, that would be considered a version of deep tier as well. These all have their place in sport. This is kind of more of a XY axis. We don't have to get into this like super deep, but I get into it a little bit. This has to do with intent. We've already talked about intent, which is going to be like the lower rep stuff. Usually you're really putting a lot of effort into every single rep, versus a reflexive where it's more so having to do with like a cycle. Okay, so like jumping rope, okay, you're kind of relaxed, you're kind of hopping around, bouncing around. That's more of a reflexive version, which also has to do with high force and low force, okay. Range of motion, deep versus stiff, okay. Deep would be like a frog hop where you're squatting down to a low range of motion and hopping along, versus the stiff ankling that we had him do. Yielding versus overcoming. Okay, yielding is going to be something like a power clean where you're stopping short. You're not fully allowing the force to bring you down, versus say like a full clean where you're allowing your body to compensate the weight and take it fully. This all has to do with that. These are a couple of examples. I tried to get a GIF here, but it didn't work. Can do it a little bit more. Direction, forward, backward, side to side. Contact, we talked about that a bit, and then action, concentric versus eccentric and stuff like that. Who here is NASM certified? So you guys know the planes of motion pretty well, transverse, Jesus. I literally blanked out. Bilateral versus unilateral, you guys already know what that means. One-sided versus two-sided. Yeah. Intensive versus extensive, we already talked about that. These are all the ways that you can customize plyos and SAQ, or this is for plyos, that you can customize plyos for your athletes depending on what you think they need, and that's just going to take some time to deem that. I'm still learning. Action, so eccentrically like biased stuff is going to be things where you're almost exclusively focusing on the landing mechanics, okay, the landing like stimulus. Okay, so I talked about altitude drops and stuff like that. He's not even, like those people aren't even jumping after they land. They're just seeing what they can, deal with without falling over or crumbling. That's the stimulus, versus the concentric, which is just going to be everything else. It's going to be any sort of jumping. That's the concentric. Everybody understand what concentric means and what I mean by that? Yeah. Yes? Yes, okay. Accommodations, people that are injured, that don't want to do it, that have any sort of disability. There's a lot of ways that you can work around that, okay? Speed-wise, air bike, elliptical, resist or seated arm drives. Do you want to demonstrate that? That's kind of, this is a silly one. Yeah, fast. Yep.
It's good for the wheelchair.
Yeah, so I mean, you realize,
It's true.
as silly as it looks, like I know plenty of people that I've taught to sprint. You might have this issue too, that can't separate their arms and legs. And these are kind of newer people. So you train with a lot of athletes, so they're all usually pretty coordinated. But you're going to get the odd person, especially like the weekend warrior for tennis or something like that can't help but monster mash. And so just separating the upper from lower body is going to be helpful with that. Band resistant marches. So I just hold a band around your hips and you just do this. Okay. Wall drills. You want to demonstrate? You can just go close to the cable machine. So, yep. 1, 2, yep, there you go. Just give me a 1, 2. Yep, yep, there you go, cool. People have issues with like knee drive, keeping their knees high and stuff like that, staying on their toes, whatever they have an issue with. This is another good way to kind of separate the upper and the lower body if they're having that issue with whatever it is. Pull sprints for somebody that does have like maybe sciatic issues, a tendon rupture, anything like that. If they're going to rehab and they still want to stay fast, they can cut through the water like that. I've seen it before. I did it a little bit when I was training jiu-jitsu, just an added stimulus. It wasn't really that necessary, but that's what my coach told me to do. Jogging cone taps, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you want somebody to not like train maximal speed, but still want them to kind of like drop down and train a degree of agility, this is going to be like your very, very beginner people or somebody that maybe also had like a tendon rupture or something like that. Just have them jog, do a cone drill, tap the cone, have them run to another cone, tap that. Seated rope jump hops. If they're sitting on the ground, say if they're sitting on a box or something like that, you can get like a jump rope, a dowel rod, like one of the rogue ones, and just have them pass it by their feet. I can demonstrate this here. Do you want to sit? Well, here, I'll just pretend that I have a stick. So you stay up on your toes, just try to avoid the stick. I come here, I pass it through, okay? Yep, like stuff like that. For somebody that's maybe elderly, that has no ability to jump at all, you could do that for them, just to kind of train that lower leg. See the lower leg hop, same thing, you're just bouncing while seated. Seated catch throw, pretty self-explanatory. Get a light med ball, toss it to them, get it behind their head, you throw it. That's a good way to train explosiveness. They could do seated, like rainbow slams with the med ball, plenty of stuff. Boxing, I've done this with an Alzheimer's patient before. That's one of the most popular things that people like to do is boxing for Alzheimer's patients. Med ball throws once again. TRX jumps. Have you guys ever done like TRX like squat jumps? You've done this before. I've seen you do it. Have you done this before? Okay, so it's. Are you guys familiar with how to do that? And
I don't really give it.
Huh?
I don't really give it that often, but.
But you understand how to.
Yeah.
This is once again like. It pays to know when to give variations and when to give the real thing, right? So if you could just give them a regular squat jump, usually that would be more helpful. But this is one way to do it. Overspeed jumps. You've done that before. Overspeed. The bands. Yeah, with the bands. I had Eric do that before, right? I forgot to sub this up, but you got two bands up on a pull-up bar. You guys might have seen this before. And you squat down and you use the bands to launch yourself higher. If somebody can't get up onto a box, or if you just want to train them to get a little bit higher than they think they can due to a mobility issue or something like that, this would be a fun thing to do for them. If they've never jumped past 12 inches before, that would be a fun thing to do, as long as you watch them. Plyo push-ups, if they do have, once again, tendon rupture or anything like that. Or if you've got somebody that wants to train explosiveness at the upper body, this would be really helpful. So just get in the push-up position and just throw yourself up. I've done it onto a box before. Lower leg hops and pogos, same thing, seated, do one leg, stuff like that. All very helpful. So I'm getting into how to program now. Speed-wise, usually people do it at, this is going to be your strength. This is your maximal intent is just like you would with a squat, bench, deadlift, all that stuff. You're gonna train that pretty similar to how you would maximal speed. Okay, 4 to 6 reps, 20 to 40 meters. This is how you would break that up. Depending on the person, it varies by person. You said, what did you say, 10 seconds? Yeah, so 10 to 15 is the general range how they would do it. And then you give it pretty good rest. Depending on the person, like and Carlos has brought this up before, like maybe it's not going to be necessary to give them 2 to 4 minutes because you're kind of trying to move the needle. Maybe they would get those same newbie gains from resting like 90 seconds or 60 seconds, ideally 90 seconds, but they still probably would get a degree of return because they're new and like deconditioned just from doing like less rest. It's when you get into like the, as you progress, that you want to take the rest more seriously. Agility, 5 to 10 meters. This is the general understanding of it. You don't want to overdo agility or else you start to fatigue. You want to keep it short and sweet. So you want to keep it to like a designated amount of steps or distance depending on what you're doing. Quickness, fairly high. This is a very generalized thing. On the lower end of this, like the 4 to 7 sets for 3, that's because it's like how you would train somebody with being a beginner with Olympic weightlifting. We keep the sets relatively high, depending on what they're doing, so that they can really solidify the technique and the form. Then they rest a little bit less. Programming, you and I have also talked about this a bit. This is more so for like your higher end athletes. For the beginners, like sometimes it doesn't matter as much. But the general rule of thumb for athletes is it's going to be front loaded because it's so taxing on the central nervous system. For the intensive, 3 to 5 sets, 3 to 12. And the reason it's so broad is because it's just like maximal strength versus bodybuilding. It just kind of depends on what you want to do with them. Rest 1 to 3 minutes, also very vague, depending on what you're going for. And then extensive is going to be the 15 plus. I didn't pull these videos up. I had them in my other file, but they didn't link to this PowerPoint, but I can probably bring them up in a sec. And then trivia. What's the name of the graph that visually explains the 2 major aspects of athletic training?
Force by agility.
What is it?
The force by agility one?
Close.
Force velocity curve.
You don't get to say it. I'll deem if you get to answer. And how about that? 2 properties of speed.
Agility and quickness.
Acceleration.
That's 1.
Force and velocity.
Sorry?
Speed is like velocity or acceleration.
Straight line. A to B.
No, you have 1.
Acceleration and quickness.
You're close.
Acceleration.
Top
Top
speed.
speeds.
Acceleration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
top speed.
top
Top
speed.
speed and acceleration.
Yeah.
So 0 to 60 and what's your 16?
And how you run camp.
Yep, exactly. So currently we're at 99, 99, and 99 burpees.
He's 98.
Okay. Okay.
Fair
One of the 3 planes of
Seven.
motion.
one. So,
Okay.
Found it.
97.
yeah.
One of the plyometrics tiers and what it constitutes.
What are the what?
So that graph,
Yeah.
that graph that we talked about.
Extensives.
Huh?
Extensive.
Like the ping.
The ping tier. What is it? What does that constitute? Could you give an example of what that is?
That was like the pogos and stuff?
The pogos, yeah, exactly. Cool. Could you give any more?
No.
Okay. That's fine. One way to accommodate for SAQ.
Like a regression?
Yeah, but what would a regression be?
Like seated.
Kind of how you just showed the arm moving thing.
Yeah, both of those are good. So 96, 96.
Like,
You guys are killing it. These are a couple of resources. I'm just some guy. I don't know everybody who's like major. I think I just know like a lot of the big names in the field right now, the ones that founded it. Yuri Verkhoshansky is going to be the #1 name, like, and Fred Wilt. The newer names, there's gonna be like Donald Chu, there's Dan Pfaff, Bush Exnator, Charlie Francis. These are a lot of like the professors and like Olympic. You probably know Bush Exnator, right?
I know Josh Francis.
Okay. This is where I got most of my information, is the NSCA book. This is what a lot of people like to get their SNC info from. This is Matt McKinnis Watson's book. Super Training is going to be like, I guess, like the primary source of athleticism training. Then Plyometrics by Donald Chu. These are a lot of the personalities that I like to follow. You probably know Marcus Rios. You heard it? Okay. Will Rattel I like. Austin Yoakum has a lot of info. I already talked about Matt McKinnis Watson. Brandon McCarty's got some good info. Angus Bradley's got some really good info for general fitness as well. Yeah. My info. All right. What you guys got?
What determines whether or not somebody's ready for the next progression?
For
For like something like plyos.
just general plyos.
Yeah.
So like I'd start them with like jumping jacks, and then I'd have them start like with like something like just hops, like just hop in a straight line. If you can do 15 without falling over, we'll progress it. Maybe increase the intensity. Okay, so you can start with something like this. Okay, and then you move over to something closer to pogos. So like something like that, where they keep their lower leg stiff. That would be a good way to progress it. And then because that's like a ping tier, you can start to like, I don't know, say like they're a wrestler. They do a lot of like triple flexion, right? They're low a lot. So you want to train something that's like maybe a single leg, like the lunge, and get them to do that. That really helps to develop their connective tissue. Good. Okay. What else?
What are
Guys?
the other tiers again?
Huh?
Besides the penguin? I know the penguins that they're the
Yeah.
first thing.
There's deep tier, there's
Yeah.
overcoming and yielding,
Oh,
there's
okay.
medium, there's light, and there's am I missing something? Hope not. Yeah.
If you're doing say someone's doing it twice a week, you can introduce this, where would you put this into like their workout?
And that's something that Carlos and I kind of talked about, is that like if they're just like the average Joe, it doesn't really matter. So say they're doing like what do you usually do, like 9 to 10 exercises?
That's something. So I'll kind of give you an idea. Right? So like, how many are comfortable having people jump top
Depends on who it is.
Yeah.
Some people.
Huh?
Depends on what it is.
Depends on what it is.
But pretty
Like,
comfortable.
would you be able to say every one of your clients could do it?
No.
Why?
They don't have the strength to do it, or
Strength,
or mentally they're just too scared.
Some of them they don't even want to because they're scared.
So like there's like that small room of like, you're scared, they're scared, and then you're like, okay, probably not gonna do it, right? So good example, right? I usually don't give people full-on sprints because they're so damn tight, and they lift a little bit, and they're already beat up from lifting that they're probably gonna tear something. But you notice like what I do, like get on the treadmill, 0.1, 80% speed at a 0.1 bounce off. So you're slowly introducing methods and these techniques on a level that they can do without worrying about like, I'm not gonna kill this person, right? Like I don't give a lot of people box jumps, but I'll give them some kind of like power position, like an explosive jump, right? Like maybe I can start them off with like a power clean, and maybe get them to do it to like get comfortable with like knee extension, hip extension, like step ups, and get better at step ups, so where they can step up on this and then introduce more, right?
And you
So-
can even do like tuck jumps or squat jumps
yeah.
and stuff like
So
that.
you're slowly like looking at where they fit with that modality. Say like, if I can't get you to full sprint because you probably look stupid doing it, then let me get you doing like some kind of treadmill work to start and build from there, right? So like, you should be doing a lot of stuff already. It's just, I would say like this is like if I had someone like Keith walk in and he's like, look man, I gotta get ready for like lacrosse. They're probably not gonna have like out of shape bodies, torn up, like they're probably more prepared for like, this is what we need to start building programs from. But if you have like your general person walking in, they should do this stuff because that's how they feel better with movements. How you do it's gonna be dependent on the person, right? So that's where you gotta get real creative. Like, okay, like you need to be better at landing because yeah, they fall over, they're fucked. Like you can be strong as soon as you like rotationally do something, or you jump and land, like that's where they have knee issues. Or like, can they actually be explosive or move? That's where you have to look at these things and how can I use what works now and start them there with it and coach them before you just jump into the big thing, right? So like, it's no different like a barbell squat. Someone say like, I want to learn how to do a full barbell squat, and they can't squat for shit. Maybe it's not the right point to start them at. So we should progress them out as something like, all right, we can teach somewhat the movement through a different modality, get them used to that, then progress them over time. But you should be doing a lot of stuff though.
So the barbell squat is like a baseline, just doing a barbell squat.
So like, good example would be,
What would be a baseline?
I'll ask Sawyer this, right? Because you probably might know, right? So, or even you, where would you expect people, performance-wise, say like, this is the standard they should meet?
Yeah.
Would you say what, a box jump, or
Well, I mean, like,
maybe a land from a certain height, or
Yeah.
maybe it's like they should be able to sprint every 2 minutes full throttle for
so
15
now I'm
seconds?
like,
I don't know,
at full
right?
throttle.
Well, you gotta think where you gotta find out where that's at. Right?
Yeah.
So good for training purposes, you can say like, if I can get someone to squat 1 rep their body weight, full squat, barbell, probably that'd be a good metric.
Yeah.
That's where we should be. You don't make it there, that's okay, right? It's like, where are we at? Then that margin is like, okay, this is what we're gonna work with. Like, this is where I need to get you to. Some people are like already there and surpassed, and some are like, you're like literally doing a goblet squat. That seems crappy, like it's hard for you, right? So same thing with any of this stuff, like there's a lot of people who won't be able to jump on a box or even jump, like they will not go off this box and land properly without tearing some shit up. But you should be able to find out, like, I know we can't do that just the way how they walk and their gaits and all that stuff or what their injuries are, but we should find ways to get them doing it, right? So even doing like a jumping lunge, right? Like if they can't do jump lunges, like just slowly just do this, like, and like, oh shit, my knees hurt, like, well, fuck, you're definitely not gonna jump off a box, and you know what I mean? But you find ways to like integrate this into training, because training with weights and all the time is gonna stiffen the shut.
And
It ain't gonna make them athletic at some point.
And it's, I mean, just like you guys probably already do with your, a lot of your like rep ranges for your average shows, like you just want to keep it high with like moderate to light intent. Like the first education series that I went to, you kind of just did like 3x12 across the board, right? And that's, I mean, it's the same shit. Like you just keep the reps relatively high. Have them do like 15 jumping jacks, and if they can do that, kind of just scale from
We
there.
just look at your modality here, right? Like, one of the safest things you do is like skiing, right? Like a rower, salt bikes. Like those things are really safe and effective to teach some of this shit, right? It's like, okay, like Sawyer can't do runs right now, his knees are hurting all that, but I need him to get explosive with a certain, like most people can do those 3 things right there. Now you can have like a baseline measure, like, okay, how long is it gonna take for him to like recover on a full sprint for like 10 seconds, right? So, have you ever taken your client, put him on a salt bike, and made him go like full throttle for like 15 seconds? Like, see how long it takes to recover? You're like, oh, I can't do this shit in another minute. It's like, so you got to look at where you're programming is your client fit, not just with resistance training, but actual stuff like this too. Like if you have people who are like golfers and tennis players, you're not giving them any kind of rotational movements. They're gonna keep coming to you saying, I got back pain, but I train all the time. It's probably because are you training the same way you're performing, right? So like I would always, there's always this controversy. I don't know if you ever heard this with like sprinters. Like half the people are like, you shouldn't be doing power cleans and squats and all that stuff because sprinting's unilateral, squatting and power cleans, all that's bilateral. People negotiate that stuff all the time, but in some ways I understand, in some ways you gotta get stronger too, right? You have to be explosive with some resistance training, right? Now you can do, you know how it is, man. You do parachute runs and sprints like that, it sucks.
Yeah.
But it's still not the same as doing like explosive resistance training, right? Now would I make that person squat like a 5x5? Probably not. It's probably not beneficial. But if I made them move explosively with certain resistance and power clean or snatch, it should make them a better athlete. But you know, you always have to listen to your clients and figure out where they're at. But I mean, if I told your person that you're training, whatever it is, like, hey, I know you're out of shape, but imagine I got you quicker, more explosive. A lot of these people out here ski a lot. Like Sawyer's talking about, like, dude, how many times they come back like, dude, my fucking knees hurt, this hurts. Like, well, they're not training properly for that. So there has to be some kind of way you have to like listen to what they do and and say, how can I give them something that's not going to freak them out? Like, walk in here and jump off box, it's probably going to freak them out. But you can find methods to say, like, okay, this is a groundwork we're going to start with. We're still training up to it. And then one day you're like, hey, like, let's get into box jumps when they try it out. And they're doing it all of a sudden, right? So, kind of like the thing we were talking about with the bands, right? Like, I forgot what you call them, because I've done them before, where you just wrap bands up on something, just yeah, like those are really safe to do. It's probably one of the best ways to learn impact, because they're, I think for people, when they think jumping off something scares the shit out of them, but going up and then landing with their body doesn't, it's a little bit easier for them to do that. Now, the only caution I have with that is you gotta be careful. If they're overweight, they're not used to understand how to move with that excess weight, where it's like they're probably turning up their bodies more because they're just too big. But there's other ways to do it. So that's why a lot of these things, like one thing that I've learned with training is when you study coaches who do all this stuff, like it sounds like, okay, I don't have athletes so this doesn't work. It's not really true. Like, you should take these things and say like, okay, that's for someone who's like super hardcore, high end, literally like D1 level pro athlete level. You can take those things out of it though and say like, okay, I can't get them to do this, but if I get my client to feel better using something, because that applies to anybody, then I can coach someone better. So that's how you start piecing these things together. Okay, I need to make someone explosive, I need to make someone faster. I'm not trying to say like, well, you're just gonna be as fast as Keith is. It's never gonna fucking happen. But if I can get her to run
Why
better,
not?
I'm just saying, you ain't gonna run. Go on there.
Why
sprint
not,
this in close.
Mirna?
But imagine like she went from like when I run it hurts to when I run I feel good about doing this. That's this stuff,
difference.
right? Or hey, I feel a little more explosive on my swings. Or when I laterally move when I play pickleball. Like you train people for resistance, but a lot of people ask them what they do, they'll tell you like I play golf, I play tennis, I play pickleball. They're just thinking like you're just good to build muscle, you're not good at athletic training. It's not true. If you do this plus some training like resistance, you should be able to do a complete package of clients. You just gotta be able to know how to. Again, it's hard because when people hear this, they're like, "Oh, I don't have an athlete. This doesn't work for me." But if I said, "Well, your client can't squat a barbell," they're like, "Oh, that's cool. I can do something totally different just to get it going." You should be able to say that in anything else you got, like stuff like this. So if you don't know how to make someone sprint, come on, travel a little fast, right? You don't know how to make them jump, like find ways they get comfortable jumping and learn how to land. If you don't know how to be like, hey, I'm terrified of like, it could be anything, man. I'm terrified of this, then find something that's regressive that gets it going. This stuff is like it's applicable to everybody, just how you use it. That's where you gotta get creative, man. Same thing with weightlifting. Like a lot of people cannot snatch a barbell, but you can snatch a dumbbell. It's not somewhat in the same realm as a bilateral snatch with a barbell, but doing a dumbbell, you can still get some benefits out of that, just like it's a barbell. Maybe one day they get there, you start power snatching, right? But you just gotta start coaching your clients there, and then they start trusting, they start saying like, there's benefits to this, right? Because I'm telling you, like, if I showed this to like clients, they're like, oh shit, like I'm not here for, they'll tell you like, I'm just a regular person, there's no way I can do all this stuff. Like you can, where you start is what we need to be at, and we build you up to it, right? Because if you turn your clients to something like that, where they can do all that stuff, they'd be blown away. Can they get there? I don't know. I can tell you like where they're at now and how they get hurt because they don't do this kind of stuff. So that's where you have to find out again. Really study your people, ask questions, and then treat training. Again, I say this because this is the truest thing I ever learned with being a coach. When you treat the barbells and dumbbells like there's progression and regression, you should do it with everything else you learn. Same thing with business, same thing with like a football coach came here. I guarantee you can learn something from a football coach. And he trained football players. But I bet you he'll teach you something like, okay, I can take that and regress it down to like my people I have here. Right? And same thing with this. Like this is like top level shit. But I only deal with people out here. You know what? I'm gonna learn from this, regress it down just for those people. That's how you gotta train everybody out, right? So then, when you read this stuff and you see it, like try to take time to think about it, ask questions, really start thinking like, how can I take this and apply it, and then you'd be surprised how better your clients are gonna feel. So, do y'all have your people running at least?
Sometimes, yeah.
Like how often?
Once a week. Some of them.
When I say, let me refresh them. Do they sprint?
That's like once a month.
See, that's not good though, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, even sprinting, right? Like sprinting's tough, man. You gotta have them do it like almost weekly. like, I might not maybe get a full throttle, but I'm gonna put them on here and get something, right? Because there's, I'm telling you, you guys, and one thing I don't understand, sprint, man, or something for the body. Would I do it all the time? No, but I still do it weekly. But no, I wouldn't say like, hey, we're gonna do like 20 minutes of full sprints. Nah, man, I just need like a couple rounds, get them going. You know, what were you gonna say, Stuart?
Where's the skill now?
It's over there. Well, let me tell you right now though. So I'll tell you why skill mills are terrifying for people. How many people get on that damn thing and regular people are like, I feel like I'll fall off.
Yeah.
So what do first? They hold off. They hold back.
Yeah.
So you're trying to like break barriers of like all of us get that skill mill, they're just fucking full blast, right? But regular people, sadly, have terrible equilibriums to understand body awareness where they fall for it every time. And you already know, like, these people do not know how to stabilize a fall. What happens when they fall, that's it. You're done, right? So I start them off with something like this where, look, just get on here, and I'm a big measures person. If I can tell you, like, just, if I say go outside, run that park, come back, like, that's too far. Like, run a 0.25 here, like, okay, just go. They'll do a 2.5. I'm like, dude, it's almost like the same distance. When I play a quarter mile down, they're gonna think that's far. I'll put it here, like, okay, I can get this done, right? So then I start measuring that. Like, okay, remember how last time, John, like, you did a 2.5, a quarter mile, you did it at a speed of 6. Why don't we try 6.2 this time? So now they're starting to see progressions mentally without like that toughness, right? So again, you try to take those modalities and apply it, and slowly apply it every week. Like, that's why I'm trying. I get people doing. Sometimes you'll see me get like heavy ass lifts. Sometimes I train it's like a lot of moving. Sometimes it's more like technique work one day. So they start learning different aspects of training because then you start seeing like, look, so you're really fucking strong, man. You're really good with that, but how much more strength do you need? You lack explosiveness. You lack conditioning. Do you really give a shit about squatting 400 when you're squat 3? No, I don't care. I'm strong. Like, okay, cool. Why don't we regress a little bit from that? We need to progress in the other things you suck at. So now you start coaching on that because unless they're trying to be my boy here squatting 500 with a bar pad. Yeah. But look, I mean, he's jacked. That's my future doorman right there. But like, if they don't tell you, like, hey, my goal is to do 500, you shouldn't be killing like doing one thing pure strength. You should be able to say, like, hey, let's play strength, man. We got better. We need to get better at this. And you'd be surprised, like, dude, training's hard. Like, yeah, it's hard. Training is like fun. It's everything, man. I want you to be fast, explosive, be able to like have less risk of injury because you're able to move in bilateral and unilateral movements, and then still be strong enough to do things, and then still take that saying, like, hey, I can go play a sport and I can hurt. Like, that's how you should train people. Trust me, man, take a climb one day. Just say, hey, man, today we're gonna finish up with some like explosive stuff on like skill mills or splits and all that shit. Like, dude, it sucks, man. That's why I start them off with this. Or sometimes I finish them off with, like, hey, finish this off, dude. It's not gonna hurt you, but you get your heart rate up real quick, man. It's good, man. Yeah.
This morning.
Oh, this, I know why this is out. Sawyer says he's going to show us all this stuff. He's going to do it. Come on, man. So what you got, man?
Back to back to back.
So you said you're going to sprint this down and back. You're going to box on one leg.
Jump.
It's like Ninja Warrior here, man. Ninja Warrior here, bro.
Hey, when you talk about LCL, stuff like that, like I remember the machine from the second. What jumping ones you do?
Finish.
Hey,
Yeah, we're done.
how many burpees
Thank
is
you.
boy